Today I'm sharing 4 powerful nuts that can help restore your hair's strength and thickness. But I'm also revealing 4 common nuts that might be sabotaging your results without you even knowing it. The last risky nut I mentioned might shock you because it's sitting in most American kitchens right now. Before we dive in, do me a favor, hit that like button and drop a comment with your age so we can build a community of women supporting each other through these changes. Now let's talk about what's really happening with your hair. Let's start with the nuts that can actually help. And I'm beginning with number 4 on the list. Almonds are something US doctors often recommend when women come in concerned about their thinning hair. Now you might think almonds are just a simple snack, but there's something specific inside them that matters for your scalp. These nuts contain something called biotin. And while that might sound technical, think of it as food for the cells that actually grow your hair. When you're past 50, your body doesn't absorb nutrients the way it used to. Medical research conducted in universities across America has shown that many women our age are running low on biotin without even realizing it. Your hair follicles, those tiny pockets in your scalp where each hair grows, need this to function properly. Without enough, they simply slow down or stop producing strong, healthy hair. But here's what makes almonds special. They also have vitamin E, which works like a shield protecting your scalp from damage. Think about it like this. If your scalp is the soil, vitamin E keeps that soil healthy so things can grow. One study often referenced by American doctors found that women who added vitamin E to their routine saw noticeable improvement in hair thickness over several months. Now, you don't need to eat a whole bag of almonds. A small handful each day, maybe about 20 almonds, is what many US nutritionists suggest. You can sprinkle them on your morning oatmeal, toss them in a salad, or just keep a small container in your purse for an afternoon snack. The key is consistency. Your hair grows slowly, so you won't see changes overnight. But over weeks and months, many women notice their hair feels stronger and breaks less easily. But almonds aren't the only nut that can help. And the next one I'm about to share works in a completely different way that targets something doctors see all the time in American women our age. Coming in at number 3, we have walnuts. And these are particularly interesting because they address something specific that happens to women after menopause. You've probably heard about omega-3 fatty acids, often talked about with fish, but walnuts are one of the few nuts that actually contain them in meaningful amounts. Here's why this matters for your hair. As we age, especially after 50, inflammation becomes a bigger problem in our bodies. You might not feel it directly, but it's happening under the surface, including on your scalp. When your scalp is inflamed, it's like trying to grow a garden in poor conditions. Everything struggles. Omega-3s from walnuts work to calm that inflammation down. Research from American medical centers has shown that women who include omega-3 seconds in their diet often see improvements not just in hair health, but in how their scalp feels. Less itching, less irritation, better growth conditions. But there's another reason walnuts matter specifically for us. They contain copper, a mineral that doesn't get talked about much, but plays a role in maintaining your hair's natural color and structure. Now, I'm not saying walnuts will prevent gray hair. That's mostly genetics. But copper helps keep the hair you do have from becoming weak and brittle. The texture of your hair matters just as much as the amount. You want hair that's strong enough to style, to brush, without breaking, to feel like your own. Many US doctors suggest eating about 7 to 10 walnut halves several times a week. You can chop them up and add them to yogurt, bake them into healthy muffins, or eat them plain. Some women I know keep a small bag in the car for when they're running errands. The beauty of walnuts is that they're working on your hair health from the inside, addressing issues at the root level that topical treatment simply can't reach. But as helpful as walnuts are, the next nut on my list does something even more powerful, especially for the type of hair thinning that's most common in women over 50. Now we're at number 2, and this is where things get really interesting because we're talking about Brazil nuts. If you've never tried these, they're larger than most nuts with a rich, almost buttery flavor, and they pack something inside them that's crucial for thyroid health. Stay with me here because this connects to your hair in a way most women don't realize. Your thyroid is a small gland in your neck that controls your metabolism, your energy, and yes, your hair growth. Medical research conducted in universities across the US has found that thyroid problems are incredibly common in women raggy, and one of the first signs is hair loss or thinning. The connection is selenium, a mineral that your thyroid absolutely needs to function properly. Brazil nuts are one of the richest food sources of selenium you can find. In fact, just 1 or 2 Brazil nuts a day provides what your thyroid needs. Here's what happens when your thyroid isn't getting enough selenium. It starts to slow down, and when it slows down, so does everything else, including your hair growth cycle. Women often describe their hair as lifeless, dull, or falling out in larger amounts than normal. US doctors frequently test thyroid levels when women over 50 come in with hair complaints, and many times they find the thyroid is underperforming. Now, I want to be clear about something important with Brazil nuts. More is not better because they're so rich in selenium. Eating too many can actually cause problems. The FDA recommends keeping selenium intake within safe limits, and for Brazil nuts, that means just 1 to 3 nuts per day maximum. You can eat them as a quick snack, chop one up and sprinkle it over a salad, or even blend one into a morning smoothie. The goal is regular small amounts. What many women notice after a few months of including Brazil nuts in their routine is that their hair stops falling out as much. The shedding slows down. That's often the first sign that things are improving. Then gradually they might notice new growth, little baby hairs around the hairline or at the crown. It takes time because hair grows in cycles. But the thyroid support from selenium creates the right internal environment for growth. However, there's one more nut that can help your hair. And this final one addresses something that almost every woman over 50 deals with, but rarely connects to hair health. The number 1 nut for hair growth after 50 is the cashew. And if you're surprised by this choice, you're not alone. Cashews don't always get the attention they deserve, but they contain something your hair desperately needs, especially now. That something is zinc. Think of zinc as the construction worker of your body, helping to build and repair tissues, including the tissues of your scalp and hair follicles. As we age, our bodies become less efficient at absorbing zinc from food, and deficiency is actually more common than most women realize. Studies often cited by American doctors show that low zinc levels are linked directly to hair loss, particularly the kind where hair thins all over rather than in one spot. This is the pattern most commonly seen in American women after menopause. What makes this especially tricky is that zinc deficiency doesn't usually cause obvious symptoms at first. You might feel a bit more tired. Maybe your sense of taste isn't quite as sharp, but nothing that screams, check your zinc levels. Meanwhile, your hair is quietly suffering. The follicles need zinc to move through their natural growth cycle properly. Without it, they get stuck in a resting phase, and resting follicles don't produce hair. Cashews offer a gentle, natural way to bring your zinc levels back up. A 4 cup of cashews provides a solid amount of zinc, along with other minerals like iron and magnesium that support overall health. Many US nutritionists recommend cashews as part of a balanced approach to nutrition for women our age. You can eat them roasted as a snack, blend them into a creamy sauce for vegetables, or even make cashew butter to spread on apple slices. The creamy texture of cashews makes them easy to incorporate into meals without feeling like you're forcing yourself to eat something you don't enjoy. Women who add cashews to their regular diet often report that their hair starts to feel thicker and more resilient after several months. The individual strands become stronger, which means less breakage when you brush or style. That's significant because sometimes it's not about growing more hair. It's about keeping the hair you have healthy and intact. But here's something crucial you need to understand. While these 4 nuts can support hair health beautifully, there are other nuts that might actually be working against you. And most women have no idea they're causing a problem. The risky nuts I'm about to reveal are sitting in pantries across America right now, and one of them is especially concerning for reasons that will surprise you. Let me tell you about the first risky nut, number 4 on the caution list. And this one catches women off guard because it seems so healthy. Peanuts, which technically aren't even true nuts, but legumes can be problematic for hair health in ways that don't get discussed enough. Now, before you think I'm saying peanuts are terrible, let me explain the specific issue. Peanuts are highly prone to contamination with something called aflatoxin, a type of mold that grows on crops, especially when they're stored in warm, humid conditions. Hormone imbalances become more likely, and hormone balance is critical for hair health, especially after menopause. US doctors often see women with unexplained hair loss who have underlying liver stress from various sources. And while peanuts aren't the only cause, they can be a contributing factor if you're eating them daily. The issue isn't occasional peanut consumption. It's the regular high intake that many women don't think twice about. Peanut butter on toast every morning, peanuts as a daily snack, peanut sauce on dinner multiple times a week. This is well documented in medical research conducted in American universities and monitored by the FDA. Aflatoxin is concerning because it can affect your liver. And here's where it connects to your hair. Your liver is responsible for processing nutrients, balancing hormones, and filtering toxins from your body. When your liver is stressed or overloaded, often seen in women who consume foods with aflatoxin regularly, it can't do its job properly. It adds up. Another concern with peanuts is that they're one of the most common allergens, and even mild sensitivities that don't cause obvious allergic reactions can create inflammation in your body. We already talked about how inflammation affects your scalp and hair growth. If your body is constantly dealing with low inflammation from a food sensitivity, that's energy and resources not going toward healthy hair production. Now, I'm not saying you can never eat peanuts again, but many US doctors suggest limiting them and choosing other nut options more often. If you do eat peanuts, look for brands that specifically test for aflatoxin and choose organic when possible. Pay attention to how your body feels. Do you notice more hair in your brush on weeks when you eat more peanuts? That might be telling you something, but as problematic as peanuts can be, the next risky nut has an entirely different issue that directly impacts something essential for hair growth. Moving to risky nut number 3, and this one surprises almost everyone I talk to. Pecans, especially the candied or sweetened varieties you find everywhere during the holidays, can actually work against your hair health goals. Now, pecans in their natural state aren't necessarily bad, but here's what happens in real life. Most of the pecans Americans eat are either coated in sugar, baked into pies, or mixed into desserts. That added sugar is the real problem. Medical research conducted in universities across the US has shown a clear connection between high sugar intake and hair loss, particularly in women over 50. Here's the mechanism. When you eat sugar, your blood sugar spikes and your body releases insulin to manage it. Over time, if you're consistently eating foods high in sugar, your cells can become less responsive to insulin. This condition, often called insulin resistance, is incredibly common in American women after menopause. What does this have to do with your hair? Insulin resistance affects how your body handles hormones, particularly androgens. Even though we're women, we have small amounts of male hormones in our bodies. And when insulin resistance is present, these androgens can become more active. They can shrink hair follicles, especially around the crown and hairline, leading to the thinning pattern that US doctors see so frequently in their female patients. Pecans themselves contain some beneficial nutrients, but when they're prepared the way most Americans eat, them loaded with sugar and often unhealthy fats, they become a problem food. The holiday seasons are particularly challenging because pecan pie is everywhere and women often don't connect their increased hair shedding in January and February to what they ate in November and December. Beyond the sugar issue, pecans are also extremely high in calories and omega-6 fatty acids. While omega-6s aren't bad in small amounts, too much of them compared to omega-3s creates inflammation in your body. Remember, inflammation on your scalp means poor growing conditions for your hair. The American diet tends to be very heavy in omega-6 already from vegetable oils and processed foods, so adding lots of pecans on top can tip the balance even further. If you enjoy pecans, the key is to eat them plain, unsweetened, and in small amounts. Think of them as an occasional treat rather than a regular snack. Choose raw or dry roasted pecans without added sugars or syrups. And be honest with yourself about portions. It's easy to mindlessly eat a huge handful while watching TV, and suddenly you've consumed several hundred calories and a lot of omega-6 without realizing it. However, the next risky nut I need to warn you about has a completely different concern. One that affects how your body absorbs nutrients critical for hair health. We're now at risky nut number 2. And this is where things get technical, but I'll keep it simple. Cashews. Yes, the same cashews I praised earlier can actually become problematic if you eat too many of them. Here's the issue that doesn't get talked about enough. Cashews contain something called phytic acid, which is found in many nuts and seeds. Phytic acid is sometimes called an anti-nutrient because it binds to minerals in your digestive system and prevents your body from absorbing them. The minerals it affects most are zinc, iron, and calcium, all of which are important for hair health. Now you might be thinking, but you just told me cashews are good because they contain zinc. And you're right. In moderate amounts, the zinc in cashews is beneficial. But here's where women often go wrong. They hear that cashews are healthy, so they start eating large amounts every day, thinking more is better. When you eat too many cashews regularly, the phytic acid starts to outweigh the benefits. Your body gets flooded with this compound that blocks mineral absorption. And ironically, you can end up deficient in the very nutrients you need for hair growth, even though you're eating foods that contain them. If you're eating lots of other foods high in phytic acid, like whole grains and legumes, which are generally healthy, you might need to be even more conservative with cashews. But as careful as you need to be with cashews, there's one more risky nut that I've saved for last. And this one is probably in your kitchen right now, possibly even something you eat regularly without realizing the potential impact on your hair. The number one risky nut that can sabotage your hair health is actually a bit controversial to mention, but it's important you hear this. Macadamia nuts, which are often seen as a luxury nut and promoted as healthy, can actually be problematic for hair health if you're not careful. And the reasons might surprise you. First, let's talk about fat content. Macadamia nuts are extremely high in fat, more than almost any other nut. While some of that fat is the beneficial monounsaturated type, the sheer amount can be an issue. This is something US doctors see in women who are trying to eat healthy but don't understand the balance. Research from American medical centers has shown that excessive consumption of high phytic acid foods can contribute to deficiencies over time, especially in women whose digestive systems are already less efficient due to age. There's another concern with cashews specifically. They're almost never sold truly raw because raw cashews contain a toxic substance that must be removed through heating. The cashews you buy labeled as raw have actually been steamed or roasted. This processing is necessary and safe, but it also means cashews can be higher in sodium and other additives depending on the brand. High sodium intake causes water retention and can affect blood pressure. And good blood circulation is essential for delivering nutrients to your scalp and hair follicles. Many processed or flavored cashews contain added salt, oils, and sometimes sugar. Women buy them thinking they're making a healthy choice, not realizing they're consuming a lot of extras that don't support their health goals. If you eat cashews, and again in moderation, they can be beneficial. Choose unsalted, minimally processed versions. Limit yourself to a small handful, maybe a quarter cup a few times a week, rather than eating them every single day in large amounts. Pay attention to the overall balance of your diet. A single ounce of macadamia nuts contains over 20 grams of fat and more than 200 calories. For women over 50 who are watching their weight, and weight management is connected to hormone balance, which affects hair. It's very easy to overdo it with macadamia without realizing how calorie dense they are. But the bigger concern is this. Macadamia nuts have an extremely high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, one of the worst among commonly eaten nuts. We've already discussed how too many omega-6 fatty acids promote inflammation in your body, and inflammation on your scalp creates a poor environment for hair growth. US doctors often counsel women on the importance of balancing these fatty acids, especially for conditions involving inflammation, which includes certain types of hair loss. When you eat macadamia nuts regularly, you're tipping your body's inflammatory balance in the wrong direction. There's another issue that's less commonly known. Macadamia nuts can be difficult to digest for some women, particularly as we age, and our digestive systems become less efficient. Poor digestion means you're not absorbing nutrients properly from any of your food, including the nutrients that support hair health.